Hey YouTube, what's up? Thanks for tuning in. My 1/24th Trailfinder 2 from RC4WD. Maybe you've seen my first video, my thoughts about the Trailfinder 2 1/24th. Ugly body, much too high, super bad electronics, extremely bad low speed modulation, much too fast, super bad steering angle. Check this out now. And horrible way to mount the body with Velcro that does not stick. And now a super nice and easy way to mount the body. Switchable front lights, new motor, new electronics, and what's most important, it does have power now and you can drive it. And you even can drive it slowly. And it has nice wheels, come on. It's a tiny truck. And it also can climb. It does not have a good approach angle. That's still not very good, but it can climb. Check this out. What's that? $51 degrees. No problem. So a totally new truck now. And this was a lot of work. And in this video I will show you what I did. I changed nearly everything. And I hope this video will not be too long if I will make two parts. The second part about the motor, which was quite a bit of effort. What you can see here, if you saw my last three videos, the 0.7 inch stamped steel beadlock rims, and again the Mickey Thompson Bajaclo tires. Maybe you saw my problems with the Milestar Patagonia tires. I was first not able to mount. I spent and wasted so much time with trying to mount those tires to the rims. Then I contacted RC4WD. Where are the second ones? And they also thought maybe it's the foams which make those tires unmountable, and I used the Bajaclo foams and was able to mount a Milestar Patagonia to those rims, and I thought problem solved, and I could mount tire number 1 to the rims and Milestar Patagonia number 2. I marked those, but I totally failed in mounting Milestar number 3 and 4. I wasted time. All in all, I for sure wasted more than 6 hours trying to mount those tires to the rims, not making the videos. And my last video was solution. It works with the other foams. It did only work in 2 tires and did not work trying forever. Check the picture here. In tire number 3 and number 4, I told this RC4WD they will look for a solution. I don't know what will come out. So unfortunately, I again had to mount the Mickey Thompson Bajaclos, which are nice tires, but it seems I bought those Milestar Patagonias in vain. And now let's talk about the truck. First about the body, then about steering, about shocks, and about motor and electronics, of course. But what you can see here, I also changed those chrome wheels. I changed the black nuts. I changed the black nuts to chrome ones or silver ones, and also used a little bit of Molotov chrome to make the axle spindle also silver. Looks a bit better, still does not look very good. but better than the black ones. Body of course painted. Used simply Vallejo black primer and Vallejo satin clear for the body. Outside no satin clear here, but you can't see the difference, and inside also no satin clear. And I used a little bit of those Vallejo wash and Tamiya weathering masters, only a little bit. Body mounting system. You see what I did here? I first wanted to print it, then I made it, cut it only and carved it out of plastic. Such a piece, a counter piece to this stand here, which normally holds the plastic part, which holds this unbelievably bad and weak Velcro. And that's really a nice and quite easy way to perfectly mount the body. So those here simply get in, and the body is of course in the right position. I don't know how I can show it to you on camera. Go down a little bit, punch, and on the back side magnets, and those back magnets also are for the light, and of course light is switchable. So that's a super easy solution, and that way the body also sits lower, doesn't sit that high, what looked really ugly. Unfortunately, I really improved the, you see it, steering angle extremely, and now there is a little bit of tire rubbing even with the small Baja claws, but found this after painting the body and didn't want to paint it again, and however seems to work quite nicely. Not perfect at all. Let's take the body off and talk about the body.
Signal lost.
Yes, signal lost. Body, some nice parts to work on and some very difficult ones. Really easy to work on is the interior and the front grille. And really difficult to work on is the body itself and the parts, the light glasses on the body. It's super easy to take the interior out. It's held only by screws, and the interior consists of 5 parts. So the seat part and the main part, 2 side parts, the dashboard, and additionally you can take the steering wheel off. And all those, the steering wheel is not held by a screw, all the other parts are held by screws. So really easy to disassemble and then to paint it and to make the dashboard. However, it's hard to see, it's such a tiny truck, but quite nice. And so it's also quite easy to put the driver figure into the truck. I simply used the driver figure from Thingiverse and scaled it down so that it fits. It's ugly, but nobody will see it. It's also easy to take the front grille off. It's held by screws here, which also hold my body mounting now. That is kind of a metal clamp here. And of course I used liquid chrome for the light buckets. And initially I wanted to use a Lambo SRC light controller and totally light up the truck. So it wouldn't have been super difficult to mount tiny SMD LEDs to the marker lights, the blinker lights, and also to make light buckets here to the front beams in the bumper. However, I had to dismiss this idea immediately or very soon when I saw how the rear lights are mounted. There would be 3 lights, but it's impossible to get to those. There are those super tiny slits, and I wouldn't have known how to mount 3 LED lights here. If, strangely, there's a slit too, you would have to have cut the rear part, maybe mount the lights and then glue it to the body again, but didn't really want to do this, so I only mounted front lights, 3mm warm white LEDs, and only use a super simple light on off switch, those cheapos, those ones from AliExpress. Those don't have those blinking modes. They are huge, but they are flat, so it sits with here with black shrimp tube below the speed controller. Huge part, but super flat. You even don't see it here, and works nicely. Only switch the lights on and off. And what was really difficult was to unmount or take off all those hard plastic body parts, because unfortunately RC4WD drive really glued those firmly to the body. They did not use hot glue. They used glue that really glues well and is super hard to break. And of course I tried to push the stands of the lights from inside. I could do it in most parts, but I failed in some, so I broke some of the stands of the blinker lights. Gladly not in the side mirrors, but also in the handles. The windshield wipers worked, but this was doable. What was the worst part were the rear lights. And what you can see here, I hope you can see it, is this glue. No, that's only, you probably don't see it, but that's a bit of glue, E7000. I broke the left light. I tried to push those out from inside. There are two of those tiny pins, and it was impossible. And then I tried to get it out that way by using a small blade and get it out that way, and the left light glasses broke into 3 parts, but I could glue them, and maybe it's even not to see anymore. However, if you want to do this, forget it. In the right light, I simply used the scalpel blade and got in from here and cut those 2 pins and took off the light, and the pins were still or are still in the body. In my opinion, it's maybe impossible to take those out. This was a pain. And afterwards, of course, I used chrome, because it doesn't look very nice only on the black body. So I painted the lights from inside with the chrome, also the marker lights. And the marker lights I additionally, after mounting, I used the Tamiya clear orange and red to make them a little bit more shiny. Mirrors, of course, now with mirror inside, but those mirrors are super strange because you see the angle, but they won't break that easy that way. So, and here I used a little bit of silver paper for the silver on the lower lights, on the lower front lights, because there are no light buckets. Probably could make them and make lights, but if you can't light up the whole truck, only the front and the side parts, I didn't do it. So that's the body. Super brittle. When disassembling, you have to take care not to break it. I had already some white marks when you try to push out those pins, and of course those side markers and all those lights are brittle too. But now it's quite a nice body, and with this mounting system it sits much lower now. And now let's talk about the servo. What you see now is that I do have a much better steering angle. I even had to use endpoint adjustments quite a bit. The servo arm would go much wider now, but, and you see I turn the servo 90 degrees. I use this tiny RFRC servo, which has the same size as the SCX24 servo or the TF2 124th servo. I showed it in my micro servo tests. This sits super nice here. Turning the servo was not a big deal at all. So I cut this plate and screwed it to the initial place and made some two stands here to make 2 points so that it will not be able to rotate. And this plastic part I printed, I simply mount it by the servo screw. I used a longer servo screw to mount the servo, and this really works nice, and the steering angle is highly improved. It's no problem with the body in front here, and in theory I even could go farther backwards if I wanted to. What is a bit of a problem, the approach angle now is not really good. I really don't like this. You see the servo arm is the first and lowest part that will hit an obstacle, and that's really not nice. And there are more holes in the servo arm. I could use this and cut the servo arm so that it's shorter. What is the problem then? Not the steering angle. I still will get the whole steering angle because I use endpoints, so the servo could travel farther, but here it will touch the lower end of the mount, and that limits the steering angle. So I have to use the long or the outer position and cannot cut the servo arm that way. Of course, I changed the servo or the steering arms here, even if they are not that bad. Where are they? Come on. Here they are. They are not as soft and flexible as those in the FCX24, but however I used metal ones, and this was not super easy because to find such ball end arms that fit into those tiny balls on ball screws was not super easy. I finally used those from the OMP Hobby M2 helicopter, and those of the Oxy 2 helicopter would have fitted too. And those fit perfectly and are not as firmly mounted to the balls as those are. Those are quite firm, not as bad as the shocks. We will talk about the shocks later, but those now fit nicely. And I also used some O-rings to eliminate the play as much as possible. If I could do it more, but then steering is going super hard. So OMP Hobby M2 or Oxy 2 helicopters, and you will get those. If you have the helicopters, you have those. The center part here, that's a blade spindle of I guess of a Oxy 2 helicopter, so fits perfectly. And I used 1.6 millimeter screws here, and I have those and cut the end, and that way I made this steering link. I know that's not super easy if you are not happen to have those helicopters and all this stuff at home, but yeah, if you have those tiny helicopters, maybe you also have bent blade spindles after a crash and can use those. And here I simply used, that's a long 1.6 millimeter screw, I guess. O-ring eliminates play, and much better now, of course, than it was before, but still not perfect, of course. Quite a nice steering angle now. Okay, checked the time again, already 20 minutes of talking. I'm not able to make short videos. I will stop here now and we'll talk about shocks and suspension and motor and electronics in part 2. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope to see you in part 2. I'll be back.